I got to play Dune Awakening. I got to play Dune Awakening, the upcoming game from Funcom that dropped the MMO title a little while ago, but continued to push forward and show off some stunning looking vistas, horrifying freaking sandworms, and enough sand dunes to piss off Anakin Skywalker in a galaxy far, far away. Now that galaxy far, far away, it's actually going to come up a couple times in this video because my opinion might be slanted for a love of Star Wars and Star Wars galaxies. But now that I've warned you about my bias, let's talk about my experiences with Dune Awakening, the good, the bad, and the confusing. Dune Awakening from Funcom may go down as one of the most interesting anomalies in the MMO space. Because after playing the beta build for the game for a content creator preview event, I cannot honestly tell you if this is actually an MMO. But at the same time, it's not Conan Exiles or Rust either. It feels somewhere in the middle, something that was confirmed with their server structure video, which showed worlds made up of several capped instances of 40 players where you can build and central hubs with at most hundreds of players at a time. Now, the reason why I say it's somewhere in the middle is because the world itself sounds like it could potentially sustain thousands of players or at least hundreds of players, but it's segmented. It sounds very, very segmented. And also there's queues within the server itself. It really just sounds complex. But honestly, I made a whole video about that, and I already released it, and you can go find it on this channel if you want to learn a little bit more about that server structure. This is actually about the way the game played and what I liked and didn't like. So let's talk about the game itself. For this content creator program, I was thankfully given the opportunity to invite some friends to join me, and so I did. I got to play the game with some friends, and that's kind of largely the only people I saw through my journey in the game. I have to say that playing with friends does make the game feel infinitely better. While it can be played solo, in fact, I think most of my time during this short preview event was solo, it was much more fun with friends. And that's kind of, in general, a lot of times, a lot of the things that I play on this channel are better with friends. It's almost like social gaming is a fun thing. Dune Awakening has beautiful presentation. It has stunning graphics, horrifying sandworms, satisfying building mechanics that snap together, fantastic voice acting, and honestly, not much else. A game where I found combat to be just kind of okay, skill trees to be a little bit lackluster, and a world that will be hampered by the very IP that was chosen. A game with potential, but potential that may be capped. Now, as we get into this, it should be noted that the version of this game that I got to play was limited. This is a beta build of the game that won't be going to launch. What I played is not what you will play. What we played is only about the first 20 to 25 hours of the game, and honestly, a lot of it just felt like a long extended tutorial that we were playing. It included only 3 out of the first 12 zones in the first map: Haga Basin South, Eastern, and Western Vermilius Gap. Oh, and this was my first attempt at trying to get to Western Vermilius Gap. Okay, just a little bit further, and then we'll get to the Western Vermilius Gap. It's really pretty though. Like that moon looks gorgeous. We're in the orange. Things are fine though. Oh shit. Right. Wait. We made it to the Vermilius Gap. Wait, it doesn't reset when you get over here? Oh, I think it did reset. It's over there. It's not, so it's not even close to us. We're fine. Okay, so it's still there. It's kind of cool that you can see it all the way over there. What the fuck? There's another one. Oh shit. Okay. At least it's over there though. We're fine. Oh man. God, they're creepy, dude. Like they just freak you the hell out. And the music, it's a lot. You know, that's creepy. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Wait, can I outrun it? Can I outrun this? No, 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 fuck. Shit. Damn it. I'm so far away. Oh god. What's gonna happen to my bike? Yeah, it hurt a little bit. I cut it there because there was a spoiler right after this, but that was scary. Thankfully, I did eventually make it to Vermilius Gap, though I had to go with my friends because I was scared, and I was very pleased to find that even though it's still just more desert, it looks distinctly different, something the game did pretty well throughout its setting by making good use of underground areas, overgrown plants and labs, and large open spaces with dunes, as well as really well crafted shipwrecks that provide an awesome atmosphere. But at the same time, I keenly felt the places that were not included but are promised, the things that would probably make it feel a hell of a lot more like an MMO than it did for me. Places like the social hubs of Arakeen and Harko, where players meet to trade and socialize with each other. It also didn't include the deep desert, the massive area that is essentially the end game and includes PvP as well as a weekly reset map. It also didn't include even more advanced combat factions or more complex and smarter enemies. None of that was present. They're all promised for the full game, but I can't comment on them because I didn't really get to play any of that. That wasn't included in our build. But those exclusions mean this review needs to be taken with a grain of spice because some of my issues may be ironed out in those later stages we didn't get to play, especially on things like player interactions, combat, and enemy variety. I want to start with the thing I was most impressed with and spent hours just admiring. This game really is gorgeous, from the terror of giant sandworms to the ever-present shifts in the atmosphere in the sky hovering above you, the way the sand moves around your feet, and the storms that would come and take over the atmosphere completely. There is a lot to love in this game in its presentation and how it transforms the world around you.
Sector weather alert. A large sandstorm is approaching.
It quite honestly looks better than I expected, and I'm happy to report that it played very well on my PC. I encountered a few bugs here and there. Sometimes my character would kind of warp forward using a skill, but I didn't really experience any crashes or lag. I will note that my PC specs exceed the recommended requirements, so that might have been part of it, and you may have a very different experience, so just keep that in mind. This presentation went hand in hand with music and sound effects as well, both of which felt very dialed in. The music of the open desert and the rumbling of sandworms was more than enough to send chills down your spine. I can't really see you. I don't want to go too far into it. I'm right over here. Oh shit, oh shit, where is it?
Wait, is that you, Ricky? Oh shit, hold on.
Where is it?
I don't know where that's at.
I don't see it.
Can't see shit, bro.
See on your map.
Oh, I see worm.
Oh shit. Bye, Grecki.
Wow, that was Wait, did you take that bike you just got?
Yeah, he did.
Oh my god, bro.
I don't want no hand-me-downs.
Hey man, a bike is a bike, bro. You could have stripped it or something.
Especially because of what happens. You see, the sandworms in this game are legitimately scary because you may at times feel like you can dodge them, but if one of them emerges at the wrong spot, you are simply not outrunning them, even on a bike. And there's a heavy loss with that with your gear and vehicle that makes them even more intimidating. There is a negative thing that happens to you if you die to these sandworms. When you die to a sandworm, you lose everything. And I do mean everything. In that clip with my friend Greki, the reason why my other friend Bibiansky brought up the bike is because when you get eaten by a sandworm, you lose your vehicle too. So it's not just the gear that you have accrued and you have on you, it's the actual vehicles as well. There's no recovering your corpse from the stomach of a sandworm. Huge props to Funcom's team for making these sandworms look, sound, and feel so intimidating. The world itself feels very handcrafted, from the dunes with their rolling wind and storm to deep caves with ruins and secrets to uncover, to scavenger camps both big and small that largely serve as a source for blood and scraps given the relative ease you can smash the scavengers with. Yes, you did hear that right. A source of blood. Blood is one of the key necessities in the game for two primary survival elements, as you can refine blood into water using a processor at your home base. You can even drink the blood raw. Yeah, though you do get at least a debuff for eating blood raw, so don't do it unless you absolutely have to. But it does keep your hydration levels up. But the world doesn't end there, as it's also these awesome looking shipwrecks to go into and explore, filled with little lore bits, like even like little things that you can listen to and hear recordings of. There's lots of different VFX and all kinds of things going on in these. It feels very handcrafted. But perhaps the coolest part of all, you have labs that are filled with greenery from lots of experimentation. Oh, and corpses. So many corpses. It was as I was exploring these areas, I realized three things. First, I was loving the creepy lore of the world and how the game was presenting it. They were masterfully showing just how brutal the planet was and feeding bits of information through voice recording and visual cues. As one of the few playing this game that is unfamiliar with the Dune IP, I was really enjoying it. I was really liking to learn more about it, and the game was feeding it to me in a really good and compelling way. From lore bits like notes that I found to the world itself to characters that I interacted with that told me different things to questing and the actual cinematic main story. But at the same time, I was also realizing just how unengaged I was with the combat. I chose the Swordmaster as my playstyle, wanting to relive memories of Star Wars Galaxy's Fencer and the Terrace Kasi. Dune's combat is a little hard to explain, as it uses a third-person camera and a pseudo-action combat. You don't lock on, and there's no tab target combat here, and it feels like the combat is designed around a controller. Not surprising, given that this game launches on both PC and consoles, but it's the actual combat itself that feels just kind of dull. I don't really know how else to explain it. I quickly realized that even though they have a parry system, I had no real point in using it. If I could start slashing at an enemy, they never actually parried me. They just kind of took the hits over and over again and died. It's not to say that there weren't hairy moments. There were times when an overwhelming number of enemies shooting darts at you can quickly drain your health, especially as you hurry in and out of the sandstorm, but the best way I can describe the combat is that it's just kind of basic. They have things like they shielding, and you have to do a slow melee attack to get through the shield, and they do eventually, like in the combat video that we showed later, they showed a little bit more advanced combat, but it all did feel very much like a slightly more advanced version of the kind of combat you would get in a survival game. So if you're looking for something like super action oriented or anything like that, I don't think that's really gonna work. If you like third-person shooter style stuff, the shooting felt fine to me. Like it felt really solid. I'm not really a person who plays a lot of shooters, but it felt totally fine. It was more the melee combat that I had issue with. But the skills themselves, the skills that you get, the things that you train in, the reason why you wouldn't be engaging and learning combat, well, they're kind of limited. There was a satisfying crunch in using my Swordmaster Leap to murder enemies, but with a decently long cooldown, you'll be more likely to be making do with slashing or swapping to a ranged weapon and shooting. A friend of mine went a different tech tree and had a little turret that he could drop to devastate foes, as well as a little barrier that slows down time with it, something he could actually use when falling from high places to save himself from fall damage. Which I do want to note here, you can climb kind of most places in the game. You can climb all over, which is cool. It works pretty well. You have a stamina bar and everything. In that same combat video from Funcom that we saw later on, it was revealed that you'll be able to unlock multiple trees. So that tree that my friend had where he could unlock a turret, I could technically have the turret plus have my sword and go about combat that way. And this was actually kind of possible in the preview build with some skills of you could go and find a character that would have a quest to unlock a skill tree for you, and you go and do that quest and unlock the skill tree. But the skill trees themselves, so like if you just go pure Swordmaster, didn't feel very deep. I should note here that while you unlock additional skill trees, you won't have enough points to go to the end of every skill tree. You'll still have to make some choices. You can't just do everything. So there is more depth here, and the promise of better enemy AI in later builds of the game from different enemies gives me a sliver of hope. The combat reveal we saw later stages of the game does look improved from what I played, but not a drastic change from that experience. But one thing that can't change, no matter what, it's not even Funcom's fault, might be kind of a bigger issue, at least for me. In Dune Awakening, despite being a sci-fi game, you're not really going to encounter much else other than big-ass sandworms and a lot of different flavors of human. This is an IP limiter that can actually be a much larger problem for any MMO that wants you to spend a lot of time grinding. It's currently an issue I have with Star Citizen as well, for example. Lack of enemy variety is a killer in games like this because you can only kill so many of the exact same enemies before you get incredibly bored. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not me trying to knock the IP, trying to knock the Dune IP. This is coming at it strictly from a grinding in an MMORPG perspective, because you're expected to spend a lot of time doing repetitive tasks. And if the combat itself isn't engaging, you at least want the enemies to be engaging. And if it's all kind of the same kind of repetitive stuff, it really starts to grind on you. You start to feel that grind and that repetitiveness a little bit more, at least in my experience. You'll feel that monotony as you kill your 10,000th scavenger to get that little bit more blood so you can go and do something else. This is honestly where, to me, a more diverse IP like Star Wars, see, I did warn you at the beginning that I was biased towards Star Wars, right? This is the bias. Would have better served this game. And many times while I was playing, I kind of wish that there was like an SWG, a Star Wars Galaxies like revival, but with some of the same mechanics and the beauty and graphics of Dune Awakening. Especially things like the building. And that's where we get to the crux of the gameplay loops in Dune Awakening. With the omissions of parts of the game we didn't get to play, it feels very much like your standard survival game with an added twist of MMO-like quests and contracts thrown in. And while some of the things we didn't see, like the deep desert, trading posts, and more elite enemies, they all sound engaging, it's hard for me to pass judgment on any of that stuff because I didn't actually get to play any of it. Your whole goal is largely to build up a base you can actually transport around using a blueprint system, which is pretty nifty, but that base and the items you keep in storage there become incredibly important given the nature of how death is handled in this game. So remember how I said the sandworms have a devastating effect? Well, if you get eaten by a sandworm, you lose everything, literally everything you had on you, as well as any vehicle you may have been riding when you died. It's all gone. You respawn naked and afraid. This makes itemization in the game more temporary, and your base becomes more important because it's less temporary. Dying from other sources isn't as punishing as dying from a sandworm, but there is always this kind of air of things not lasting as long. Everything you have on feeling like it can be lost at any moment, not to mention that they have durabilities. so you'll be using them and need to repair them and things. In that way, it is very close to what you'd expect from a survival game, but also older MMOs like Ultima Online. We didn't get to see the trading post in action during the test, but I do hope it helps create a vibrant area of trade among players by utilizing that temporary nature of gear and vehicles and taking things and making crafting important to people, as well as resources, gathering of resources. Now, while I have mostly avoided talk of story up to this point, I do want to talk about some of it, but I'll still be avoiding any spoilers for it. It's something that Dune Awakening actually requested we do. This game has a central quest line as well as branching side quests. Some of those will have choices you can make and good solid cinematic with acting and good performances. If you like the Dune IP, I think you will really enjoy these moments, and they may be some of the standout moments for you where you'll just sit back and enjoy the game and enjoy the story that unfolds in front of you. Interestingly enough, one moment shortly after I became lunch for a sandworm, I experienced a very important story beat, something that gave me a lot more insight into the lore of the world. But my friends did not. The story itself isn't necessarily super dense, it's fairly accessible, but as someone unfamiliar with the Dune IP, a lot of the things that they showed, a lot of these side quests and main story cinematic quests, they piqued my interest quite a bit. They made me more interested in the Dune IP, which is a great selling point for this game. I wanted to know more. I wanted to learn more about this incredibly cruel and harsh world where blood is kind of a drink that you have on a Sunday. In general, though, especially after learning more about the server structure and all this time playing the game, I kind of feel that in some ways, some very key and important ways, Dune Awakening actually feels like a step back from an MMO that launched in 2003. Star Wars Galaxies. From server sizes to how they handle player housing, to variety, to playstyle diversity, to skill trees, and so much more. Even how you trade with players and communicate and do PvP and animal taming and such. Dune Awakening will of course get the edge in things like graphics, cinematics, and story, but even combat feels arguable. No one is going to sit here and tell you that Star Wars Galaxy's combat was fantastic. It was extremely basic, but it seemed to have more skill depth to it, more ways that you could create a character that mattered until they fucked it all up and changed it. But you know, we don't have to talk about the combat changes. But perhaps I'm just biased. Perhaps I'm blinded by a love for that IP versus a complete unfamiliarity with the Dune IP. So I do have to admit here that maybe there is some other part of me that is being a little too harsh here. In fact, I'd hardly say that Dune is bad from my little first impression of it, especially without the opportunity to play the full game and playing a creator-specific beta build that is behind what the current build is, and one that had limited participants, so I couldn't interact with that many people. But the things that stuck out to me as being good, like sound effects, music, fantastic visuals, the fun of traversing on vehicles, which was very fun. I loved going over sand dunes, for example, and trying to get air and not piss off sandworms, as well as the cinematics. Well, those kind of things, the kind of things that aren't as important to me personally as having more robust MMORPG-like systems, the things that will actually pull me into the game. I think if you like survival games, if you enjoy the building and resource gathering of survival, you will like this game. If you like the Dune IP, you will like this game. You will actually probably absolutely love this game. But if you're looking for an MMORPG experience, this might not be it. I think my impressions of the game are best summed up as being mixed. I have some disappointments, some moments that I found truly impressive, but I'm largely just feeling kind of okay about it. And that may be in part due to my own lack of familiarity with the IP, which I keep bringing up, but I'll still be giving the game a shot at launch, which has been delayed to June to give them a little more time to polish. But I also might spend a little more time with some other games. I mean, hey, the original Guild Wars is on sale right now, and I never really got to play that MMO, maybe about like 10-20 minutes. So maybe that's a game I should try. The good news is that if you're interested in playing Dune Awakening, or at least you're just curious and want to test it out, you'll be able to do so with a large-scale beta weekend that I'm happy to announce will be on May 9th, and you'll be able to jump in and play at that time and essentially play the same thing I played during this creator preview. Whether you're going to be playing Dune or not, I hope this video was helpful to you, and please remember that this is just my opinion, and you will have a vastly different experience than me, and you should always try something yourself and not just listen to what we have to say, because we're always coming from a bias, like my bias towards Star Wars Galaxies. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Redbeard Flynn, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you to Funcom for giving me the opportunity to go and play your game and have this little preview event. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.